Hello, Phil Cross here. I've just had a little coffee stop and like a tapas type pasty, a spicy little affair. Weren't too bad. Probably the size of two thumbs put together. But yeah, it was nice. Nice big cup of coffee, beautiful. And we're just sort of heading off into the plains. The roads are a lot straighter here, but I anticipate in the next sort of I don't know, 40 minutes to an hour we'll start heading into more sort of twisty, hilly type environment. We're still on our way to Huesca. Police anecdotes. There's, you know, I got to about, I don't know, sort of 7 or 8 years into my service, and my dad said to me, you never talk about your job. You never talk about what you do at work. And there was this kind of I don't know, this kind of thing where it become so normal for me that I didn't think that you know, why would people be interested in it? It's just everyday life really. But the sort of things that you see when you join the police and you start sort of progressing in the years, and the kinds of things you see, without putting too fine a point on it, you start to dislike people, and you can, you know, like grumpy old fucker, whatever you like. But what I mean by that is, in the job that you do, I mean, you look at people in the NHS. Yeah, you look at people in the NHS. They deal with people when they're, you know, at such a low ebb, you know, fucking serious injuries, blood pissing out everywhere, and they're trying to, number one, make them right, and number two, reassure them. I'm just letting these cars come past me. I'm fluctuating them. And it's the thing with with policing is what I was saying to you in one of the earlier films about, just, you know, a bit like being a human being. People can be so fucking evil to other people. It just doesn't bear thinking about. And when you're trying to deal with it, you're trying to deal with it as a fucking human being, as somebody that is there to try and help these people. Because let's face it, more often than not, people don't call the police unless something's gone terribly wrong in their life. And you know, you're trying to deal with the impact of what's happened to them, whether it be physically, whether they've had property stolen. You know the shitbag burglars that go in and take people's stuff, and a lot of that stuff isn't really valuable, other than to the person it belongs to. You know, it's just humans being fucking shit to each other, and you sort of get that all of the time. And I remember I was out with Jerry Roberts when I was still a probationer, and it was one of the I say still a probationer. I think I was still in street duties, and we were doing a night duty. And at that time, I worked on Barkingside Division, and like I say, it's 44 square miles. I'm not going to narrow it down because you know, there were people involved in this, and you know, should the people that were involved in this ever watch this and you know, identify themselves, I'm trying to keep it as ambiguous as I possibly can. So we got a call to a block of well, it's basically a new build part of this area, and it involved some houses, and it involved some flats. You know, the typical sort of new builds that you get. And we got a call hysterical woman. It was all kicking off. So we've gone there on the hurry up. Jerry's driving. Obviously, I was still quite young in service, and like I say, it's one of the first sort of serious things I dealt with. And I think the suspects obviously heard that we were on our way, because we used all those lovely sirens and lights and shit, and basically fucked off. But it didn't take us long to figure out who they were and be able to nick them. And the reason that the woman called us, because these blokes that lived in the same, almost close to them, if you like, had knocked on the door, or a bloke had knocked on the door with a couple of his mates in tow. And when the lad in the house opened the door with his girlfriend in the room behind him, they basically kicked through the door, barged him into the front room, and proceeded to, with their fucking Black & Decker saw, proceeded to start sawing his fucking leg off at the thigh. They've sort of made off pretty much as there was some teeth marks in the bone, I think, but they've fucked off before we got there. And of course then we're dealing with this woman who's just looking at her boyfriend fucking bleeding out. It was just a fucking nightmare. Managed to sort him out. We got the ambulance there fairly quickly, and we managed to deal with it so the guy didn't bleed to death, to be fair. And what was it about? I'll tell you what it was about. It was about a fucking parking space. The guy that broke into the place was fed up of this lad leaving his car in this particular parking space because he preferred to use it because it was closer to his flat. A fucking parking space. They were sawing his fucking leg off. And this was an early introduction to me, and just how fucking evil people can be to each other. And you try and go through that and think to yourself, well, perhaps that's just a one-off. Hopefully it's not going to be as bad as that forever. But it is, and a lot further on in my service. I moved to West End Central, and I was there initially as a uniformed officer before I became a detective. And while I was on team in uniform, again, night duty. So the story goes, again, if you're listening to this, fellow, I'm trying to keep it as ambiguous as possible. And I hope life went on for you quite nicely. But to try and let's try and talk about West End Central teams to begin with. I was on C team. There were 5 teams there, A, B, C, D, and E, obviously. But for some reason, and you can argue the rights and wrongs of it as much as you like. But I thought it was always something that I found to be quite divisive. E team at West End Central was basically the team where any male officers that were out, i.e. gay, and they were out, public knowledge sort of thing, they worked on E team, and anybody that was openly gay that transferred to West End Central were given the first option to join that team. So effectively, almost in its entirety, E team were gay. Which, like I say to you, rightly or wrongly, I think that was probably more divisive than anything, because you don't get to know people. I was brought up in the 60s and the 70s, and I was brought up with a particular kind of language that was used to describe a particular type of thing, particular type of people, wherever it may be. I was brought up using that language, and that's the language I used. However, I later became a street duties instructor, so like I was telling you, one of the other films where we're teaching the youngsters the ropes, hopefully, giving them a decent bit of guidance. And one of the other officers on that street duties was a gay lad. And to be fair, we we got on so well that in those sort of 10 weeks, because basically what you do is there's a certain amount of instructors for the first 5 weeks, and then they reduce the amount of instructors for the second 5 weeks, so that the students are then going out in pairs on their own, and you're there to go and help them if they need it. Basically, you're sort of just trying to bring them on so they can go out and deal with stuff on their own. But me and this gay lad, again, I'm not looking at names and shit. We got on really well. And do you know what? As a result of working with him for 10 weeks, it changed my views, if you want to call it views, to a point where I don't use that kind of language anymore. As simple as it fucking sounds, I mean, and it really is that simple. He just made me realise that it's a sexual preference, and that's it. It's a pure and simple sexual preference. When you look at LGBT, fucking QABZ, I think the LBG, lesbian, bi and gay part of that, it's a sexual preference. So I think everything thereafter is a mental illness, and that's my view on it, and I probably have the same view as quite a lot of people. You've got a sexual preference, lesbian, bi or gay, that's, it is what it is. Anything beyond that, all this fucking non-binary rubbish, fuck off, I'm not having it. But he in those 10 weeks of working with him, he completely changed my attitude, and he made absolutely no effort to do it. It was just him, and I'm quite appreciative of that. But that said, I never let whatever my views were before then, I would never let that interfere with how I'm dealing with the person in front of me. The person in front of me has got a problem, and I've been called by them because they're hoping that I can perhaps do something to help them or sort it out. So I was working night duty in West End Central, and there was so the story is, there's a gay couple that work for the American embassy. They're Americans, and they've got a little place not too far from the embassy, which was in Grosvenor Square at the time. One of them has a friend come over to stay with them who his partner doesn't know. The guy whose friend it is working nights at the embassy, so his partner takes the friend out, who he doesn't know, to show him the sights. And when I say the sights, we're talking about Soho, Old Compton Street. It's a massive gay scene now, and that's basically where they were going to just to show him around where they live, essentially. So what has happened is, the friend from the US that's come over has made a pass at his friend's partner while they're out. He's been knocked back, got the raging up about it, started to get a bit squiffy, tried again, got knocked back again, and he's wearing steel-toe cap boots. And basically what he's done is then kicked the guy's partner in the nads. But in doing so, I'm trying to describe it in a way that you can picture it, but in doing so, the steel toe cap, in line with maybe the hip or the inside of the femur or whatever it might be, has basically crushed and split open the guy's bell end. So we get called to, he's gone back home, the guy that's done the kicking has fucked off. We've gone to his address. The partner, whose friend it is, has come back from the embassy, and I'm sort of first there with him. And when I've gone in, he's basically sitting on the toilet, just fucking blood like pissing into the toilet from this basically this open wound. So I've said to the partner, I need some cotton tea towel, something that's not furry, So, and he's got the tea towels, and basically I've gone with the tea towels. Said, mate, I've got to stop that from bleeding. While we're waiting for it, I've got to stop that from bleeding. And he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I need to, I need to fucking hold it. As simple as that. I need to hold it together, and sort of wrap it in these towels to try and stop the bleeding. And he got very, and then explained to me that he's got HIV, and it was at that moment in time, it felt really weird that he's kind of bleeding out, and it's you lose quite a lot of blood through those parts, and his concern was the fact that he's got HIV, and I'm about to be going somewhere close to where there's a lot of bodily fluids, and I basically said to him, mate, I'm not looking to kiss or anything. I need to fucking stop this from bleeding. So we'll talk about all of that shit afterwards. It's just and I knew from actually listening to people when they spoke about it that in order for you to contract HIV from blood, you needed an awful lot of blood for an awful long time into a wound for it to be an effect. So I knew that I wasn't under any sort of risk, to be honest. And I did what I did, but that was the kind of the kind of thing that sort of opens your eyes. Is the guy's bleeding out, but he's more concerned about me contracting something that it would take a lot of work for me to contract in the first place. So yeah, there's a couple of little anecdotes. But it's, when you catch a copper on a bad day, maybe sometimes it's time to sort of cut them a little bit of slack. Hopefully it's not going to be a case that you'll finish up getting nicked because they got the ump, or they're giving you a ticket because they got the ump. But if for some reason they're a bit short with you, just try and think that what was he dealing with half hour before that he's maybe got the zig about. Like I say, one thing the job teaches you is that human beings can be fucking evil to each other, and that when you're seeing it almost on a daily basis, and it literally is almost on a daily basis, it's just sometimes people need to be given a little bit of consideration. Yeah, that's me. I'm going to stop for a little while. Ta-da.